Many historians say Abraham Lincoln was the most successful president in U.S. history. Lincoln was born here in Kentucky, near modern-day Hodgenville. It's no more than a 2-hour drive from any location in the North Central television viewing area.
The Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historical Park was established through a House Resolution 8351 on July 17, 1916, signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson. Established the Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Park, as it was called at that time. The park here actually began as an idea through the Lincoln Farm Association, which was incorporated in April of 1906. Very prominent, influential, and powerful Americans came together for this project, including people such as William Howard Taft, Henry Watterson, Augustus Belmont, Robert Collier, very prominent Americans. The idea here was to purchase the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln, preserve and maintain the farm and his birthplace, and to make that into a national park. And that, again, was finally realized on July 17th of 1916.
And the building we see there behind us, what exactly is that building?
The building here is called, today we call it the Memorial Building. Originally, when it was completed in early 1911, it was known as the Lincoln Memorial Hall. A lot of people ask us that, is this building, the structure, is it kind of exemplary of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Actually, this one predates the one in Washington, D.C. by 11 years. This one was finished in early 1911. The one in Washington, D.C. was finished in 1922. So this is the first memorial to honor Abraham Lincoln.
And you say the cabin is actually inside the memorial building. Why did they decide they wanted to put the cabin inside?
Well, at the time in 1906, when they began putting this project together, the Lincoln Farm Association thought they had the original cabin. The memorial building here was built specifically to house that cabin. Unfortunately, today, through carbon dating and through processes, we know the cabin that's inside the building actually is not old enough. It is, however, a period cabin dating to the 1840s. But in 1906, the Lincoln Farm Association really believed they had the original cabin. The architect of the project, his name was John Russell Pope. He was one of the prominent architects of the early 1900s. He wanted to make sure that there were certain things about Abraham Lincoln that the general public would remember. So he put a lot of symbolism into the building. A good example here in front of us, just outside here, is the number of steps leading up to the building. There are 56 steps, one step for each year of Lincoln's life. So it reminds us of the age of Lincoln at his passing. Inside, he wanted to remind everyone that Lincoln was our 16th president. So inside the building, there are 16 windows. There are 16 posts around the cabin, as well as 16 rosettes or flowers on the ceiling, all to remind us of Abraham Lincoln.
Now, obviously, you've worked here more than 10 years, 11 years, I think you told me. How much have you learned about Lincoln, the boy, versus the Lincoln, the older man and president? I mean, what did you learn about him just as a young boy when he lived in this area?
Well, one of the first things I learned that I did not know before coming here was that he did have other siblings. He had an older sister, Sarah, who just turned 2 years old 2 days before Lincoln was born here. And then while they're at Knob Creek, there is a younger brother, Thomas Jr., that is born. But however, all sources seem to point that he died within just a few days after birth.
And what kind of child was Abraham Lincoln? Was he quiet? Was he more outgoing? What kind of personality did he have?
I would have to say my word would be adventurous. Some of the stories that we have gathered on Lincoln at an early age, he nearly drowns at Knob Creek. He is actually saved by a neighboring boy who happens to be with him out in the field that day when they decide to cross the stream. He's out, actually they're out chasing quail. So the quail fly across the creek. Abraham and Austin Gallagher, the neighboring boy, decide to cross the creek, chase the quail. Abraham falls in as they cross that foot log. So it's one of those stories, and the Gallagher family, they're still pretty proud of that, for saving not only Lincoln, but as they see it, saving America.
Also here on the property, in addition to the cabin and all just the history that you see, there's a lot of history inside the visitor center too. What's actually inside that building?
Inside the building, of course, we have the information desk. When visitors come here, they can get a brochure and get information on the site as well. For me, one of the important things in there, and actually is an artifact of the Lincoln family, is the Lincoln Family Bible. It belonged to Abraham's mother and father, printed in 1799. It is a actual link to the Lincoln family and their time here.
When people come and visit here, what kind of reactions do you all normally get? I mean, do they actually, have conversations with you all and tell you what their feelings are after they have visited?
A lot of the comments we have, they talk about how powerful this is as far as the view and what it means to be here, how it impacts them not only individually but maybe the whole family as well. A very, very powerful statement here is made.
How important is this site to the state of Kentucky, would you say?
It is very important to the state of Kentucky as well as to the local community. And it actually contributes quite a bit to the local economy. I think the last numbers last year were over $6 million to the local economy. So it is very important to the surrounding area and Kentucky as well. And of course, Abraham Lincoln is a son of Kentucky. But we also have to point out, and I often do with other visitors, is that not only was Abraham Lincoln born here, but about 8 months before Lincoln is born here on this location, about 100 miles southwest of here, about 10 miles east of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, in a little community called Fairview, is where Jefferson Davis was born. I find it very interesting that both presidents during the American Civil War were Kentuckians. Actually, we have a couple of events coming up this summer. Of course, as I said, this park here, this was established July 17th of 1916. So the centennial of the park is coming up this July. And we do have a big celebration coming up planned for that centennial. On the weekend of July 16th and 17th, we actually have 4 living history presenters coming here representing 4 of the 5 presidents that's been here. We have a Teddy Roosevelt, who the original Teddy Roosevelt laid the cornerstone for the building. We have a William Howard Taft, who the original William Howard Taft gave the dedication here November 9th, 1911. Then we also have a Franklin Delano Roosevelt and a Dwight David Eisenhower. That's 4 of the 5. So we saved the 5th one for August, when we have our centennial event for the establishment of the National Park Service, the weekend of August 27th and 28th. And we have our President Woodrow Wilson coming here then. Woodrow Wilson was the one who signed the legislation establishing the park here, as well as the Organic Act, which established the National Park Service on August 25th of 1916. I hope everyone comes to visit. This is a very unique place to come to honor Lincoln. We get visitors from all around the world. Last year was a little over 203,000 people that came through this site.
For more information about this summer's events at the Lincoln Birthplace, you can call the park at 270-358-3137. The park is located just off Highway 31 in Hodgenville. It's a wonderful place to visit to learn more about America's 16th president. Reporting in Hodgenville, Kentucky, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.